Hello, Peter. Could you please just introduce yourself and tell us a bit about yourself?
Hi, Leah. Thanks. Yes, I work as a management consultant in the heritage and culture sector, and I've been a member of the Heritage Fund's Register of Support Services for almost 20 years. So I'm used to helping heritage organisations make the case for funding, work on business planning and sustainability issues, and assist the fund assess applications for grants from these perspectives.
Excellent, thank you. And what have you been doing to help the Heritage Fund as it worked up the Heritage Emergency Fund scheme?
I've been working with the team to scope the finance questions on the application form and also to support on drafting the guidance notes.
Thanks for that. And can you also just tell us a bit about what organisations that are considering applying to the Heritage Emergency Fund should do first?
Yeah, sure. Many organisations are obviously very anxious about making an application without delay because of the pressures that they're under. As with any grant scheme, it's important to spend a bit of time looking at the guidance, and there are lots of FAQs on the website too. And through that, check that this grant is definitely for you. The FAQs are being regularly updated as new questions and comments come in. So hopefully the answers to any questions that you have, you'll find there. It's important to see whether this is for you, because not every organisation that the Heritage Fund has supported in the past will be eligible for support under this scheme. Note in particular the list of types of organisations that are eligible to apply and those that the scheme is not relevant for. So if you decide you are eligible to apply and can make a strong case for this, and having looked at the guidance notes, then the first step is to download the blank application form, which you can find on the website, and you can use this to help you prepare your answers. Because the priority has been to get this scheme up and running as quickly as possible, it's not quite the same as applications that some of you may be familiar with in terms of registering and using an online portal. So this one can't be saved, unfortunately, as you go along, and you also can't save a copy of the submitted version. So it's important to keep a note of your answers. And you might be able to screenshot pages as you work through. But obviously, if you based on the blank of the application form, if you work on your draft responses there, then you'll have a copy of those to hand.
Great, thank you for that, Peter. And can you take us through the key questions in the form and highlight some of the key points as you go through as well?
Yeah, sure. So I'm going to start at question 11, which is about costs. You can apply for between £3,000 and £50,000, and you don't need any match funding. So this is a 100% cash grant. You don't need to provide any other cash or in kind or volunteer time. So just ask what you need for. But this is very important. The maximum is capped at 50,000, but please only ask for what you need. The fund is expecting very heavy demand, and it wants to support as many organisations in crisis as it possibly can, but it's not going to be able to support all the applications that it receives. It may award you less than you request if it feels that a lower grant amount is more appropriate in the circumstances. So you can apply for costs you expect to incur over the next 3 to 4 months, but no longer, as this is a short-term funding measure. You can't recur costs already incurred, but you can include costs from the date of your application. So moving on to question 12, which is about VAT. If you're not able to recover some or all of your VAT, you can include this in the amount that you apply for. Question 13 is where you provide a breakdown of the costs that you're applying for. So this might be, say, 4 or 5 rows of description with a pounds figure next to each. The guidance gives some examples of the type of costs that the fund anticipates that organisations may be seeking help with, but please only apply for costs that are absolutely essential for the next 3 to 4 months. So on to question 14. This asks about the percentage of your income that comes from earned sources. We know that organisations that get much of their income from trading are liable to have sustained a large drop due to COVID-19 closures. So this question helps the fund to get a sense of the significance of trading income in your particular case, and obviously that'll vary from organisation to organisation. If you have a trading subsidiary, express your income from earned sources as a percentage of all income, including that from the parent organisation. So next, questions 15 and 16. Only organisations that are in receipt of regular revenue funding from, say, a local authority or Arts Council England or equivalent agencies in devolved governments should answer yes to this question. It's possible there may be more flexibility in the use of such funding in the short term, given the emergency situation. So tell us about how flexible or otherwise this funding is in the current circumstances. Questions 17 and 18 give you the opportunity to tell the fund where else you're looking for emergency support, such as the UK government's job retention scheme, if that's relevant to you. It's important that you make clear here where else you are applying for emergency funding and the extent to which this will overcome the financial challenges you're dealing with at the moment. You may also be launching an emergency appeal or approaching charitable funders, so highlight any of these kinds of approaches too. In some cases, the timing of decisions for other grants you're applying for may not yet be known. If so, indicate where these are pending. Question 19 picks up on questions 17 and 18, as we know that some of the schemes are not yet available and there may be grey areas as to what you're eligible for. Please summarise here about how you plan to cope with these and any related timing risks. This will also help the fund to get an appreciation of the extent of the pressure you're under and what mitigation you're able to put in place. Some organisations have investments, perhaps arising from a legacy or in property. At this stage, in question 20, the fund is simply wanting to gain an appreciation of what organisations may have in terms of such invested funds, but it's appreciated this question doesn't apply to many organisations. Questions 21 to 24 are about reserves. Here the fund is wanting to get an understanding of what reserves you hold and what their purpose is. You may have reserves that you're able to use to help during the COVID-19 emergency, but you may have other reserves that are restricted for a specific purpose. Summarise the amounts and restrictions in question 23. In more normal circumstances, you may hold reserves that you can access equivalent to a number of months' worth of typical operating costs. Put this number of months in answer to question 24. Some heritage organisations have very specific operating costs that cannot easily be reduced, if at all. Questions 25 and 26 ask about these. The application form gives an example, the costs of looking after livestock. Other examples could be specialist collections, conservation, or security costs. Question 27 is pretty self-explanatory, but because the Heritage Emergency Fund is unlikely to be able to fund every project seeking its help, it's helpful here to demonstrate how far you've been able to go to reduce risk and what further plans you have. The latter could be particularly important given uncertainties about whether current government schemes are extended or a grant scheme you are applying to is oversubscribed. We all know how incredibly tough times are now at the moment in our sector. So those that can develop multifaceted contingency plans are likely to have the greatest resilience to overcome this period of huge uncertainty. Questions 28 and 29 link back to questions 21 to 24. But here the fund is keen to know what available cash, the application forms calls this free reserves and other funding, you have that can be applied to support day-to-day costs right now, and how many months this could last at your current level of operation. It's a figure that's important for cash flow planning. Question 30 is to help the fund to understand about your sustainability as an organisation. So if you've recently been facing up to key challenges of this type that predate the coronavirus pandemic, please use this question to tell the fund how you are seeking to overcome these and any critical issues you need to resolve. Question 31 asks about how you contribute to 3 key Heritage Fund outcomes. These are the ones the fund believes will be particularly important to communities and organisations as the UK begins to recover from the pandemic. You can find more about these by going to the website heritagefund.org.uk/funding/outcomes. The first of the three outcomes relevant to the Heritage Emergency Grant Scheme relates to inclusion. This is mandatory outcome 01 and means that a wider range of people will be involved in heritage. The second key relevant outcome is well-being. This is outcome 06. The final one is economic regeneration, and that's outcome 09. Those of you that are familiar with the current strategic funding framework for 2019 to 2024 will know about these. But if you've not been in contact with the Heritage Fund for a while, please consider how well your organisation contributes to these three key outcomes before you answer question 31. Well, that's the end of this video. If you're applying for more than £10,000, please watch the separate video about the supporting cash flow document you'll need to provide. Meanwhile, I hope this has been useful to all of you. Take care and stay safe. Thank you.